Was it drugs or something?
He was paid to do it.
He was paid to do it?
Yeah.
Where were you shot?
In my hands, my legs several times, like 5 times in my hands, and then in my legs, and then in my face. I got shot right here. I was sitting in the car. He was waiting. He was double parked. He was waiting on me, right?
50 Cent finally exposed the man who shot him 9 times and completely changed his life since. We're gonna dive deeper into the insane day when Curtis James Jackson got his whole body shot up. And we're gonna see why the guy who was behind it did it in the first place. Way before 50 Cent became the man he is today, he was just another dude trying to make it in the rough streets of South Jamaica, Queens. Back in the 1980s, when the whole crack epidemic was taking off, 50 Cent was just a young kid hustling to get by. By the time he hit the ripe old age of 12, young 50 Cent was already diving into the world of drug dealing and street hustling.
You know, you had, 50, which we call him Boo Boo. Like, he jumped off the porch, I would say, at 12 years old. So I was 3 years behind.
During this time, 50 Cent's main focus was not on hip-hop. Instead, he was out grinding on the streets just to put food on the table. Growing up without a mom, because she passed away when he was only 8, and never really knowing his dad, the guys he looked up to were street legends in South Jamaica, the ones running the show, making the cash.
To say you had it tough is to put it mildly. I mean, you were left without a parent at 8 years old. At 12 years old, you were dealing drugs on the streets because that was the only way to survive.
One of these big shots was Kenneth McGriff, aka Supreme. So now Supreme, he was like a kingpin in South Jamaica, a name that would truly send shivers down anyone's spine in the neighborhood. 50 Cent, he was like a superhero, the dude who had it all figured out. Supreme had this tight-knit crew called the Supreme Team. Their business, white powder. Their customers, right here in South Jamaica. At its peak, the Supreme Team was rumored to be pulling in over $200,000 a day.
In 1987, the Supreme Team was at its peak, grossing up to supposedly $200,000 in a single day.
Now, Supreme might not have been a big-time cartel boss, but he ran a drug dealing operation big enough to make other crews green with envy. Under Supreme's wing, the gang grew huge, with hundreds of members. You didn't want to mess with the Supreme Team, because some of these guys were actual killers. Among the leaders were Bimmy, Righteous, Baby Wise, Gerald Miller, aka Prince, who happened to be Supreme's cousin, and Black Just. Black Just and 50 had a special bond. Some folks even called Black Just the big brother that 50 never had. He was the guy who looked out for 50 in the streets, even buying him his first motorcycle and sending him to a boxing gym. So when 50 wasn't sparring in the gym, he was spitting rhymes in a friend's basement, using turntables to cook up his beats. As time went on, 50 started diving deep into hip-hop. In 1996, a buddy introduced him to Jam Master Jay, who became his rap mentor. Then in turn, Jam Master Jay taught 50 how to craft some hooks, count bars, structure songs, all that jazz. But it wasn't just him who got the hip-hop bug. Supreme caught that rap fever too. You see, now, Supreme had been arrested in 1987 and pleaded guilty to running a criminal enterprise. Then he got slapped with that 12-year sentence to go to the slammer, but he managed to get out on parole in 1994 after only serving about 5 years. So when Supreme came back to the block, it was smack in the middle of a golden age of hip-hop. Hip-hop was the hottest thing across the whole USA, and Supreme decided to ditch the drug game altogether. He saw hip-hop as his ticket to a fresh start, clean cash, and a whole new identity. Supreme had his sights set on becoming a bigwig in the hip-hop world. In the early 2000s, he linked up with Murder Inc. Records, one of the biggest labels in the rap game at the time. These guys were like the kings of the early 2000s rap scene, pumping out hit after hit after hit, and making waves not just in the streets, but in pop culture too. Irv Gotti, a hip-hop genius and producer, was the brains behind that label. They had artists like Black Child, Charlie Baltimore, Ashanti, and of course, Ja Rule, all riding that Murder Inc. wave. Having Supreme in their corner meant they had some serious protection against their rivals. Plus, working with Supreme boosted Murder Inc.'s street cred big time. At this point, Ja Rule was one of the hottest rappers in the country, so Supreme clearly made the right move. The label was stacking cash left and right, and everyone was feeling good. But then in 1999, they hit a big old rough patch. Ja Rule got his chain swiped by a guy named Troy while filming a music video. Word on the street was that Troy did it because he thought Ja Rule had been messing around with his wife. Supreme used his connections to get that chain back and proved once again just how valuable he was to Murder Inc. But here's where things took a turn. Ja Rule spotted Troy chatting it up with 50 Cent at a club. According to 50, that's when the beef started cooking.
A friend of mine's robbed Ja Rule. And I'm in a club, and I see the nigga, I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, chilling. He see me kicking it with the nigga that robbed him, and he feel like oh shit, I shouldn't speak to this dude because I know the kid robbed him, but I know this kid, I grew up with him.
This whole situation had Ja Rule thinking that 50 Cent was in on the plan to rob him. 50, though, played it cool, saying he was just hanging out with Troy because they were homies. Now, let me break it down how crazy brave it was for 50 to go head-to-head with Ja Rule. At the time, 50 Cent was just this underground rapper signed to Columbia Records. Ja Rule, on the other hand, already had platinum-selling albums under his belt, and 50 hadn't even dropped a debut album yet. Now, Ja Rule had the backing of a big-time label and the whole industry behind him, while 50 Cent was just this gritty gangster rapper with nothing but his street smarts and fiery personality. Now, here's where things get even murkier. Ja Rule straight up denied ever seeing 50 and Troy together. He said their beef started because the Murder Inc. crew gave 50 Cent the cold shoulder while he was shooting the music video Murder for Life. And this shoot went down after the whole chain robbery mess. So this timing was like real sketchy. So we might never really know what lit this fuse on this beef. But one thing is for sure, 50 Cent wasn't about to let any disrespect slide. Before he took any drastic steps though, he had a chat with Supreme about it. Allegedly, Supreme told him, hey, leave this little dude alone. You know they've got issues, but this is my business. However, instead of cooling things down, the beef just got heated up even more. 50 Cent started calling out the entire Murder Inc. crew, including Irv Gotti.
50, what's the definition of a wankster, man? I mean, what is that?
Ja Rule, Irv Gotti. I'll tell you personally, the Murder Inc., the people that you see like Irv, Ja, the people that are involved in the business aspect are bitches. Like these niggas don't got no hood in it.
So here's the scoop. 50 and Ja Rule crossed paths at the Swiss Hotel in Atlanta, where they were both booked to perform at the same show. 50's manager, Chaz Williams, thought it'd be a good idea for them to have a chat and maybe, perhaps, hopefully, possibly bury the hatchet. But instead of having a heart-to-heart, this turned out to be the moment they decided to throw punches. Things got real wild and 50 Cent managed to swipe Ja Rule's chain. He wasted zero time making sure everybody knew about it too. He even dropped a diss track called Your Life's on the Line. And in the music video, he pulled off one of the most embarrassing moves in hip-hop history. He was rocking Ja's chain like it was his own bling. So Supreme eventually got Ja Rule's chain back from 50, but 50 did not leave empty-handed. He scored himself a watch in the process. But that music video is still something that people speak about to this very day. It was the ultimate slap in the face for Ja, and things were about to get real ugly from here. Ja Rule and the Murder Inc. crew tried to put the screws in 50 Cent in the music biz, and it really put a dent in his career growth. Then on March 24th, 2000, things got physical once again. Ja Rule and 50 were both at the Hit Factory building, and they were in different rooms. When Ja found out that 50 was nearby in the Hit Factory studio, he convinced his homies to go give him a beating because he just couldn't join in. He was on crutches at the time. So 50 and his crew clashed with Black Child and other Murder Inc. members in a full-blown out brawl.
Beef is when you see a nigga in this fucking studio or wherever and the nigga wanna talk and niggas is like, nah, ain't nothing to talk about, right? It's like 5 of us and 5 of them and niggas is getting it on and fighting and bond. Some way, somehow, the lights got hit off and niggas was getting it on in the dark.
That guy who was just talking was the same guy who shanked 50, Black Child. But 50 toughed it out and lived to tell the tale. Black Child ended up behind bars, and the judge slapped a restraining order on 50 Cent to keep him safe from the Murder Inc. crew. This move sparked the rumor mill, and people started whispering that 50 might be snitching. But what really turned Supreme and the whole street gang against 50 and painted a bullseye on his back was when he dropped the track Ghetto Quran. In this track, 50 dropped names of all the major drug dealers, hustlers, gangsters in Queens. So not only was he going after his fellow artists, he was also shining a big old spotlight on street business for everyone to see, including the feds. But 50's side of the story was that he was not trying to snitch. No. He said he was just trying to pay respect to the OGs. But Supreme had had enough of 50, and he decided it was time to put an end to this 50 Cent problem once and for all. So he put down a cool $25K for a hit on him. On May 24th, 2000, around noon, 50 got the scare of his life. He was waiting in front of his grandma's crib with his buddy Curtis Brown, who was driving. 50 was chilling in the back seat, and Curtis's girlfriend was there too. Now, before 50 got back in the car, his friend reminded him to grab his diamond pin. So as he was on his way back to the car with the pin, he took his piece with him, just in case. 50 said he did notice a car roll up on the block, but he didn't think much of it. But as soon as he hopped back in the car,
in the garden, and I walked over here to sit in the actual vehicle that my friend was waiting for me in, and the car pulled up. On the side of us, a guy got out the passenger seat of that car, came around behind it, and shot through the actual
That bullet did some serious damage. It ripped through his face, his arms, legs, hip, and even his chest. And after all that, 50 ended up with a swollen tongue, a busted leg, and even lost a wisdom tooth. You know what else? That's what's messed up his voice, giving him that slurred speech. He spent a whopping 13 days in the hospital before they finally let him out. Now, the guy who pulled the trigger on 50 Cent was Daryl Homo Baum. Baum had some ties with Mike Tyson, even being his former bodyguard too. But here's the kicker, Supreme wasn't just after 50 Cent, he also ordered hits on E-Money Bags and Big Nose Troy. Supreme's criminal world came crashing down on him in 2001 when he got slapped with a life sentence without parole. But for 50 Cent, this whole incident changed his life forever. At the beginning, 50 hit rock bottom. Losing his deal with Columbia Records was a real gut punch to him. But once he got back on his feet after healing from those injuries, he hustled his way back into the studio and dropped one of the hottest mixtapes of all time called Guess Who's Back. Somehow that mixtape caught the attention of none other than Eminem. And when M signed 50 to Shady Records, it was like a whole new chapter in his life began. And he hasn't looked back since. What's y'all's take on 50's life and how he survived all the challenges that were put in front of him? Let us know what you think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click that like button, comment, subscribe to our channel for all the freshest hip-hop news straight to your feed. And as always, before you go, you got to remember to keep it RIZZLE.